The air in the grand ballroom was thick with the scent of lilies and roses, a soft melody from the string quartet, weaving through the expectant murmurs of the guests. I felt like I was floating, my pristine white gown a cloud of lace and satin around me as I glided down the aisle towards the altar, towards Ethan. But then my steps faltered. My heart slammed against my ribs, a cold dread seeping into my veins. Standing beside Ethan, where I should have been, was another woman, also in a wedding dress. A gasp tore from my throat, raw and loud in the suddenly silent hall. Ethan, what in God's name is the meaning of this? I demanded, my voice trembling with a potent mix of disbelief and rising fury. He didn't even look at me. His gaze, an expression of profound tenderness I once thought was reserved for me, was fixed on the other woman. Melody is terminally ill, he said, his voice surprisingly calm, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. She just wanted to experience a wedding. You wouldn't mind, would you, Olivia? His casual cruelty, the utter disregard for my feelings, was like a physical blow. A fiery rage, swift and all-consuming, obliterated every other emotion. With a guttural cry, I ripped the veil from my head, the delicate lace tearing in my grip. The sound of my hand connecting with Ethan's cheek echoed through the stunned silence. Mind? Mind your own damn business. I spat, tears of outrage blurring my vision. Go on then, marry your dying childhood sweetheart. This wedding is off. I'm done. Blinded by tears and fury, I spun on my heel and fled down the aisle, the shocked faces of our friends and family a blur. My eyes landed on the guests and on pure reckless impulse, I grabbed the arm of the first handsome stranger I saw. He looked up, startled, his charming almond-shaped eyes widening slightly. I'm marrying you instead, I declared, my voice choked but defiant. Do you want me or not? A slow, assessing smile spread across the stranger's lips. His eyes, full of an unexpected amusement, twinkled. Well, well, he murmured, his voice a low, smooth baritone. You certainly have an eye for quality. I'm looking forward to receiving the full text. Okay, I've received your story. This is quite a dramatic and satisfying tale. I'll get to work on translating and enriching it now. This will take a little time to do it justice. Here is the translated and enriched story. The grand hall buzzed with anticipation, the air fragrant with the scent of lilies and roses. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, illuminating the path I walked in my pristine white gown, a cloud of lace and satin. I was gliding towards the altar, towards Ethan, the man I had loved for 7 years, the man I was about to marry. My heart soared, only to plummet into an icy abyss moments later. As I drew closer, my eyes widened in disbelief, my breath catching in my throat. There, beside Ethan, bathed in the soft glow of the altar lights, stood another bride. A strangled gasp escaped me, echoing in the suddenly hushed hall. Ethan, what in God's name is the meaning of this? My voice, when I found it, was a raw whisper of betrayal. He finally turned, but his gaze, usually warm when it met mine, was distant. Instead, he looked at the other woman with an expression of such profound tenderness it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Olivia, please understand, he began, his tone infuriatingly gentle. Melody has a terminal illness. She just wanted to experience what a wedding feels like. You wouldn't mind, would you? It's just for show. Mind. The word was a choke sob. His casual cruelty, his utter disregard for the most important day of my life, for me, ignited a fury I'd never known I possessed. With a guttural cry, I tore the veil from my head, the delicate tool ripping in my trembling fingers. The sharp crack of my palm connecting with Ethan's cheek resounded through the stunned silence. Mind? I mind with every fiber of my being. I see the tears of outrage finally breaking free, carving hot trails down my cheeks. Go on, Ethan. Marry your dying ex-girlfriend. As for me, I'm not marrying anyone today. Not you anyway. Blinded by tears and a maelstrom of emotions, I spun on my heel and stumbled back down the aisle, the shocked faces of our friends and family a painful blur. My gaze swept desperately across the rows of guests. On a reckless, defiant impulse, I reached out and grabbed the arm of a man I'd never seen before, a strikingly handsome stranger whose tailored suit spoke of quiet expense. He looked up, startled, his beautifully shaped eyes, the color of warm amber, widening slightly. I'm marrying you instead, I declared, my voice choked but fierce, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Do you want me or not? A slow, assessing smile spread across the stranger's lips. His eyes, now sparkling with an unexpected amusement, met mine. He murmured, his voice a low, smooth baritone that sent a shiver down my spine despite everything. You certainly have an eye for quality. The sudden appearance of a second bride had already thrown the wedding into chaos. Now me, the original bride, still in my wedding gown, dragging a strange man towards the exit and declaring a new impromptu marriage, left the guests utterly speechless. Their jaws collectively dropped. My mother, recovering first, shot up from her seat, her face a mask of horror and disbelief, and grabbed my arm. Olivia, have you lost your mind? She hissed, her voice trembling. This is your wedding day. You can't just do this. A bitter, humorless laugh escaped me. I gestured wildly towards the altar where Ethan now stood awkwardly beside Melody, who was dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, the picture of fragile innocence. Am I the one who's lost my mind, Mother? Or is it Ethan? Have you ever in your entire life heard of a wedding with two brides? My mother sighed heavily, a sound laden with disappointment, her gaze shifting to the spectacle on the stage. Just then my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, Mrs. Collins, bustled over, her face flushed, wringing her hands. Olivia, dear, she pleaded, her voice high-pitched with distress. Ethan is just going through the motions. With Melody. It's a symbolic gesture, that's all. He's not actually marrying her. How can you just grab a random man and say you're remarrying? What will people say? Think of the Collins family's reputation. I stared at her, my eyes blazing with scorn. The only family whose reputation is in tatters right now is yours, Mrs. Collins. I wasn't the one who decided to spring a second groom on my wedding day. I shot back. And let's be honest, you kept this a secret because you knew perfectly well how shameful and utterly disrespectful it was, didn't you? My confrontation with Mrs. Collins cast an even deeper pall over the already tense atmosphere. All eyes darted between me, fuming by the pews, and the pair on the stage, Ethan looking increasingly uncomfortable, and Melody, who now appeared even more distressed. They were waiting for an explanation. Melody, sensing the shift in the crowd's attention, looked out at us, her large doe-like eyes glistening with unshed tears. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft and tremulous, designed to pluck at heartstrings. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her gaze sweeping over the guests. It was me. I begged Ethan, my dearest childhood friend, to let me experience a wedding ceremony before I die. Please don't blame him. She paused, a delicate cough racking her frame. I know it's an outrageous request, but I have late-stage lung cancer. I only have a few days left. This was my only wish. As if on cue, a tear escaped and traced a glistening path down her cheek. She looked so tragically beautiful, so vulnerable, that a murmur of sympathy rippled through the crowd. Oh, the poor thing, late-stage cancer, someone whispered. It's a terrible tragedy. One can understand wanting to grant a dying person's wish. Perhaps the bride should be a bit more understanding, another voice chimed in. It's all symbolic, isn't it? An extra bride doesn't really disrupt the proceedings, does it? I clenched my jaw, my gaze locking with Ethan's. His face was a mask of stoic resolve, but I could see the flicker of unease in his eyes. Ethan, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in my hands. We've been together for 7 years. 7 years to get to this day. I don't want you to ever say I gave up on us because of a moment of anger. I took a deep breath. So I'm giving you a choice right here, right now. Who are you going to marry? Her or me? Ethan's face hardened. He looked at me, not with love or even regret, but with a cold, dismissive glare. Olivia, can you please stop being so unreasonable? He said, his voice devoid of warmth. I've already told you this thing with Melody isn't real. Why do you have to keep harping on it? He gestured towards Melody, who was now leaning weakly against him. She's dying, Olivia. What's the big deal about letting her experience this with us? The marriage certificate will still have your name and mine. I had clung to a sliver of hope that he would see reason, that he would choose me, choose us, and put an end to this ridiculous farce. His words, however, shattered that last hope. My heart plummeted into an icy abyss. The man I loved, the man I had built my future around, was truly gone, replaced by this callous stranger. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unstoppable. Fine, I choked out, my voice trembling. Then the marriage certificate won't have my name on it at all. Go ahead, Ethan. Register your marriage with her. Under the bewildered and judgmental gaze of hundreds, I wiped my eyes, straightened my shoulders, and turned to leave, intending to walk out of this nightmare and never look back. But a warm, strong hand closed around mine, halting my escape. The handsome stranger I had accosted moments before gently pulled me back, a surprisingly tender gesture. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear, his voice a low, conspiratorial murmur. "My dearest wife-to-be," he said, a playful glint in his amber eyes. "Weren't you just proposing to marry me? You can't just abandon your new groom at the altar, now can you?" A wave of embarrassment washed over me. In my fury and desperation, I had completely forgotten about my impulsive declaration. I turned back, my cheeks flushing crimson as I met his gaze, those captivating eyes still sparkling with amusement. "Oh, I'm so sorry, mister," I stammered. I was overwrought. "Please don't take what I said seriously." He arched an eyebrow, a teasing smile playing on his lips. But proposing marriage is a rather serious business, wouldn't you say? I for one took you very seriously. You can't just renege now. You'll have to take responsibility." I was trapped. His grip on my hand was firm but not painful. His presence surprisingly reassuring yet utterly bewildering. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His eyes, full of a warmth that was a stark contrast to Ethan's coldness, held mine. "Allow me to introduce myself properly," he said, his smile softening. "My name is Julian Vance. I'm 25, single, and as it happens, in need of a wife." Julian Vance. The name pricked at my memory, sounding vaguely familiar, but I couldn't quite place it in my current state of turmoil. He then turned, still holding my hand, to face Ethan and Melody on the stage. He gave me a quick, reassuring wink. "Trust me on this," he murmured, his voice low and confident. "I'll help you wipe the smirk off that scumbag's face, so thoroughly he'll never recover from the humiliation." There was a flash of something sharp and predatory in his eyes as he looked at Ethan, a glint of disdain. That was gone as quickly as it appeared. Then, with a theatrical flourish, he pulled me with him, and we bounded onto the stage. Ethan's eyes narrowed, instantly wary and hostile as he recognized Julian. "Mr. Vance, what do you think you're doing?" Julian feigned surprise. "Why, getting married, of course. You've decided to marry someone else, so I've decided to marry your former bride. It's just a ceremony, right? You don't mind if we share the stage, do you?" Ethan spluttered, momentarily speechless, his face reddening. He then rounded on me, his eyes blazing with fury. "Olivia, that's enough. This charade has gone on long enough. Apologize to Mr. Vance at once and let's get on with our ceremony." I couldn't believe it. Even now, after everything, Ethan still thought I was just throwing a tantrum, that I would eventually back down. We'd met in college, and in the passionate throes of young love he'd made so many promises. He'd sworn we'd marry right after graduation. He wanted to build our life together, a partnership in every sense. But in our first year after graduation, he'd said love wasn't enough without financial security, so we needed to establish our careers first. The second year, he claimed his startup was too demanding, leaving no time for a wedding. "Just a little longer," he'd pleaded. By the third year, his company had stabilized and finally, under my persistent pressure, he'd agreed to marry me. And now this surprise. I'd heard whispers about his first love, Melody. They were childhood sweethearts, inseparable until Melody's family moved abroad after high school, forcing them apart. Then just a month before our wedding date was finalized, Melody had reappeared, back from overseas. She claimed she was terminally ill and had come home to spend her final days. Her return had completely captivated Ethan. He became her shadow, catering to her every whim, so much so that he'd become utterly uninvolved in our wedding preparations. I had chosen the venue, written the invitations, selected the gifts, booked the caterers, even picked out his tuxedo and my wedding dress, and our rings all by myself. And this public humiliation was the only surprise he had managed to prepare for me. I looked at Ethan's arrogant, self-righteous face and a cold, sharp laugh escaped me. I turned to Julian, stood on my tiptoes, and planted a defiant kiss on his cheek. "Mr. Collins, you're being rather amusing," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Why should I apologize when I'm marrying my actual husband?" I then turned back to Ethan, my eyes narrowed. "As for you, after 7 years together, you spring another bride on me at our wedding. Don't you think you owe me an apology?" Julian's arm snaked around my waist, pulling me closer. He returned my peck with a much more deliberate, lingering kiss on my cheek. "Indeed, Mr. Collins," Julian said, his voice laced with mock concern. "Are you perhaps a little overwhelmed by your own change of brides? Why are you still so fixated on my wife?" Ethan's face turned a dangerous shade of puce. He clearly didn't dare confront Julian directly, so he directed his venom at me. "Olivia, you're doing this just to spite me, aren't you? If you don't go through with this ceremony with me today, you'll regret it. You'll come crawling back." "Ethan Collins," I declared, my voice ringing with conviction. "If I ever regret this or ever even think of coming back to you, then may I be struck by lightning." With that, I looped my arm through Julian's, and we turned to the bewildered officiant. "Please continue," Julian instructed smoothly. The officiant, clearly flustered but a professional, stammered through the vows. When it came to exchanging rings, Julian, obviously unprepared, chuckled, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek, expensive-looking fountain pen. With a flourish, he drew a delicate band on my ring finger. I giggled, a genuine laugh for the first time in what felt like an eternity, and did the same on his. Then the officiant's voice boomed. "And now the groom may kiss the bride." The announcement made both Ethan and me freeze. I stared at Ethan, a challenging glint in my eyes, perversely curious to see if he would actually kiss Melody. As Ethan hesitated, looking torn and increasingly flustered, Melody took the initiative. She rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. Ethan, after a moment of stunned inaction, didn't pull away. He closed his eyes. A fresh wave of pain and fury washed over me. I gritted my teeth, then turned to Julian, grabbed his lapels and kissed him deeply, pouring all my hurt, anger, and a strange surge of exhilaration into it. That finally broke Ethan. He lunged forward, yanking me away from Julian with surprising force. "Olivia, are you insane?" he roared, his face contorted with rage. "Playing along with Vance is one thing, but you actually kissed him? You kissed him like that? Where does that leave me? What about my dignity?" "Tisk tisk," I retorted, pulling myself free from his grasp. "Weren't you the one just saying whoever regrets their choices today is a dog? You kissed Melody, didn't you? So congratulations to us both. It seems we've each found our new happiness." My defiant stance left Ethan fuming, stuck on the stage, his face a mottled red and white, his eyes bloodshot. Melody, ever the actress, shuffled towards me, her expression a mask of gentle sorrow. She reached for my hand. "Olivia. Sister Olivia," she pleaded, her eyes brimming with tears. "The ceremony is almost over. Can't you just endure it a little longer for Ethan's sake? For my sake." "Endure your mother," I snapped, snatching my hand back. "Get lost." The moment I pulled my hand away, Melody let out an exaggerated, theatrical shriek and crumpled to the stage, falling with a dramatic thud. Ethan's face turned a sickly green. "Olivia, you venomous witch," he bellowed, his hand lashing out, aiming for my face. "How can you be so cruel? Isn't it enough that she's dying? Do you want to hasten her death?" Before his hand could connect, Julian intercepted it, his grip like iron. With a sharp twist and a shove, he sent Ethan stumbling backwards, nearly falling off the stage. Julian then meticulously wiped his own hand with a pocket square he produced from nowhere, his expression one of utter distaste as he looked at Ethan. "Mr. Collins, are you an idiot or just blind?" Julian drawled, his voice dangerously soft. "Didn't you see my wife pull her hand backwards? Your companion, however, threw herself outwards. It was the most obvious fake fall I've ever witnessed. Can't you tell?" Ethan blinked, momentarily stunned. He looked down at Melody, who was now sobbing pitifully on the floor. He bent down and helped her up. "Sob. Ethan, my dear Ethan," Melody wept, clinging to him. "I didn't fake it. Olivia really did push me, but I don't blame her. It was my fault for intruding on your wedding without proper warning." There, Melody, it's all right," Ethan cooed, patting her back. "As long as you're not hurt. We'll finish toasting the guests quickly, and then I'll take you back to the bridal suite so you can rest." "Bridal suite?" My blood ran cold. "What did you just say?" I demanded, my voice dangerously low. "You're taking her back to our bridal suite? Are you actually planning to consummate this charade with her?" Ethan's face tensed. "Don't be ridiculous, Olivia. She'll just be staying in our marital home for a few days. She won't be in the same room as us." I stared at him aghast. If Melody merely wanted to experience a wedding ceremony, I could, perhaps, stretch my imagination to understand Ethan's warped logic. But to have her stay in our marital home? That was beyond comprehension. Ethan, you've completely lost it. I cried. That house. We bought it together. We made the down payment together, we're paying the mortgage together. What right does Melody have to stay there? I paused, a horrifying thought striking me. And besides, you said she has late-stage lung cancer. Why isn't she in a hospital? Are you planning to turn our home into her hospice? Are you going to watch her die in our bed? Ethan gritted his teeth, his voice rising to a shout. Can you stop being so petty, Olivia? Even if she were just a guest, what's wrong with her staying for a few days? He glared at me. And can you stop being so malicious? Every other word out of your mouth is a curse, wishing her dead. It's clear you just don't want her to have a moment's peace. His accusations left me speechless with anger and disbelief. If I truly had the power to cure a late-stage cancer patient with a single word, Ethan, I'd be a global messiah, not standing here arguing with you. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping me. I'm done talking to you. This is my decision, and you have no say in it. With that, Ethan took Melody's arm and began to make the rounds, toasting the bewildered guests. Julian, not to be outdone, raised an eyebrow at me, a challenge in his eyes, and then taking my arm firmly, also began to circulate, introducing me with a flourish as my lovely wife, Mrs. Vance. The rest of the reception was a surreal, chaotic affair, more like a poorly rehearsed farce than a wedding. After the toasts, Ethan personally escorted Melody to his car, solicitously opening the passenger door for her, my passenger seat. A fresh wave of anger washed over me. Julian, noticing my expression, raised an eyebrow. Well, my dear, the bride and groom are off to their accommodations. We should follow suit, shouldn't we? The night is young. He then led me towards a sleek, gleaming Rolls-Royce parked discreetly to one side, opening the passenger door for me with a charming bow. Just as I was about to get in, Ethan, having seen us, rushed over, his face a thundercloud. He grabbed my arm. The game is over, Olivia, he hissed. Are you really planning to go home with Mr. Vance? Get in my car now. Let go of me, Ethan, I retorted, pulling my arm free. Since you're so determined to take Melody home, why shouldn't I go with Julian? Julian leaned against the Rolls-Royce, a smirk playing on his lips. Indeed, Collins, he drawled. Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Everyone paired off nicely. Before Ethan could react, Julian had ushered me into the car, slid into the driver's seat, and with a roar of the powerful engine, pulled away from the curb, nearly sending Ethan, who had instinctively put a hand on the car roof, sprawling. In the rearview mirror, I saw Ethan, disheveled and furious, straighten his clothes and then jump into his Mercedes, tires screeching as he sped after us. Julian chuckled, glancing at the rapidly approaching Mercedes in his own mirror. Still following you, he remarked, winking at me. Terrified I might actually whisk you away for good. It had all started as an impulsive act of defiance, a desperate game. But I was beginning to realize, with a growing sense of unease, that Julian Vance was taking this marriage very seriously. He was actually driving me to his home. After much pleading and persuasion on my part, arguing that even if I were to genuinely remarry, it wouldn't be quite so abrupt, he finally relented and agreed to drop me off at the house Ethan and I had bought together. As I stepped through the front door, the sight that greeted me sent another jolt of fury through my system. Ethan was sitting on our marital bed, tenderly holding Melody's hand. Seeing me, Ethan quickly dropped her hand, a sheepish, guilty expression on his face. Olivia, you're back, he said, attempting a smile. Melody isn't feeling well. We thought it best if she took the master bedroom. We can use the guest room, it's just as comfortable. I exploded. Ethan, have you completely lost your mind? First she crashes our wedding, then she moves into our house, and now you're giving her our bed? What's next? Are you actually going to sleep with her tonight, to make her dying wish complete? Olivia, sister, please don't blame Ethan, Melody interjected, her voice weak. I can stay in the guest room, cough, cough, cough. She clutched her chest, dissolving into a fit of violent coughing. A moment later, bright red blood trickled through her fingers. But the blood, it looked too bright, too uniform. It looked suspiciously like the prop blood you could buy online. A cold smirk touched my lips. All right, Melody, cut the act. If you keep this up, you'll die right here on the spot. No sooner had the words left my mouth than Melody's face turned a ghastly shade of bluish-purple. She gasped, then vomited a large mouthful of what appeared to be genuine dark blood, before her eyes rolled back and she collapsed unconscious onto our bed. Ethan, his face a mask of terror, scooped her into his arms and rushed towards the door. He paused only to throw a look of pure hatred over his shoulder at me. "If anything happens to Melody," he snarled, "I swear, Olivia, I will make you pay with your life." I stood there utterly dumbfounded. Could it be? Could Melody's terminal cancer actually be real? That didn't seem possible, not with the earlier charade. To verify my suspicions, I hailed a cab and followed Ethan's car as it sped through the city. He pulled up to City Central Hospital. I expected him to rush Melody to the emergency room, but then the real show began. Melody, who had been unconscious moments before, stirred in Ethan's arms as he carried her through the hospital entrance. Her eyes fluttered open. Ethan, wiping sweat from his brow, looked down at her with immense relief and adoration. "Melody, you're awake. You coughed up so much blood. You nearly scared me to death. I'm taking you to the ER right now." Melody weakly draped an arm around his neck, her voice a soft, loving murmur. "Ethan, my dearest, I feel a bit better now. Besides," she sighed tragically, "I'm already in the terminal stage. There can't really do much for me." She offered a brave little smile. "I'm really okay. Just take me to the oncology department. Dr. Peterson knows my case. He'll know what to do." Ethan nodded, his expression filled with concern, and carried her towards the oncology wing. Soon a doctor, presumably Dr. Peterson, had Melody admitted to a private room. I donned a baseball cap and a surgical mask I kept in my purse, blending in with other visitors, and followed them to the doorway of her room. I heard Dr. Peterson speaking to Ethan in solemn tones. "Mr. Collins, your friend has late-stage lung cancer. Hemoptysis, coughing up blood, even in large amounts, is unfortunately a common symptom at this stage. I can only prescribe medication to alleviate her pain and make her as comfortable as possible." He placed a sympathetic hand on Ethan's shoulder. "In these final days, try to fulfill any remaining wishes she might have. Beyond that, we can only let nature take its course." The doctor gave Melody a look filled with pity before quietly excusing himself. Ethan gazed at Melody, his eyes welling up with tears. "Melody," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "The wedding ceremony. It's done. Is there anything else? Any other wish I can grant for you? Just tell me." Melody looked up at him, her eyes shining with a feverish light. "Ethan, my love, I've never been to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Could I perhaps experience the process of getting a marriage certificate? And could I call you husband?" Ethan's jaw set with determination. He took her hands in his. "Yes, Melody. Anything. You rest well today. I'll make an appointment for the marriage registration tomorrow. I promise I will fulfill this wish for you. And as for calling me husband," he smiled tenderly. "Melody, if it makes you happy, please call me husband." "Oh, husband. My husband." Melody burst into tears, a torrent of emotion. "You don't know. After we separated for so many nights, I dreamed of calling you my husband. I never thought I'd actually get the chance before I died. I'm so happy." She threw her arms around him, and they clung to each other. A tableau of tragic, devoted love. Listening from the doorway, a fresh wave of fury surged through me. We just had our sham of a wedding, and I hadn't even had a chance to call Ethan my husband, not that I wanted to anymore. And here was Melody, already claiming the title. As I seethed in the hallway, Ethan spoke again, his voice soft and doting. "You must be exhausted and hungry after all this. There's a decent restaurant across the street. I'll go get you some food." He stood up and headed for the door. I quickly ducked into a nearby stairwell, waiting until his footsteps receded down the corridor before re-emerging. Melody's hospital room door was slightly ajar. I could hear her voice from within, but it was no longer weak and frail. It was animated, almost giddy, with no trace of illness whatsoever. My suspicions flared. Something was definitely wrong. I quickly took out my phone and, shielding it from view, started recording video through the crack in the door. Inside, Melody was pacing the room, phone pressed to her ear, laughing, a vibrant, healthy flush on her cheeks. "Ha ha ha ha. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to fool that idiot Ethan," she crowed into the phone. I tell him I have late-stage lung cancer, and he buys it hook, line, and sinker. He even let me be a bride. Oh, you should have seen Olivia's face at the wedding. She looked like she was about to explode. She paused, then giggled again. Oh, and get this. Just now, back at their place, I used that prop blood you bought for me, sprayed a huge mouthful of it. Scared Ethan half to death. Even that sharp-witted Olivia looked completely taken in. Melody preened. Just you wait. He's already agreed to go through with the marriage registration and let me call him husband. Next, I'll just cough up a bit more blood. And then, hitting him up for a few million will be a piece of cake. I guarantee I can fleece him for a hefty sum. Then all our problems will be solved. My jaw practically hit the floor. The audacity. But alongside the shock, a cold, vindictive satisfaction began to spread through me. Oh, Ethan, I couldn't wait to see the look on your face when you finally realized how thoroughly you'd been played by this conniving little actress. I stopped the recording and quickly walked away. From Melody's conversation, her motives were crystal clear. Enjoy the thrill of manipulating Ethan and then swindle him out of his money. And the person on the other end of the phone was undoubtedly her accomplice. I had a feeling their identity would soon come to light. As I passed the doctor's lounge, I overheard two physicians chatting. Peeking through the slightly open door, I recognized one as Dr. Peterson, the oncologist who had treated Melody. The other doctor's name tag read Dr. Miles. Dr. Miles was casually twirling a pen, a diagnostic report in his other hand. He was looking at Dr. Peterson with an amused, knowing smirk. It was clear they were in on something. Instinctively, I pressed record on my phone again. So this Melody Lynn, Dr. Miles drawled, tapping the report. What's her connection to you, Peterson? You're risking disciplinary action forging a fake diagnosis like this. Come on, spill. What's the deal between you two? Dr. Peterson snatched the report from him, his expression one of feigned nonchalance. Would you believe me if I said there's nothing between us now? She was a goddess I had a crush on back in the day. She never looked my way, of course. She came back to the country recently and asked for a small favor. How could I refuse an old flame, even an unrequited one? Dr. Miles mused, stroking his chin. Well, it's not exactly a major crime, but it's not insignificant either. As long as you didn't enter it into the official system, it won't show up in online searches. But you'd better be careful with that stamped paper copy. He grinned. And unless you plan on buying my silence, I might just feel obligated to report this little discrepancy. Dr. Peterson chuckled, a sleazy conspiratorial sound. Oh, come off it, Miles. You just want a cut, don't you? How about I treat you to that all-you-can-eat seafood buffet at the Emperor's table? Will that be enough to seal your lips? They both grinned, a silent agreement passing between them. I saved the recording, a cold, triumphant smile playing on my lips as I strode out of the hospital. It seemed my trip hadn't been a waste. After all, I had uncovered the truth behind Melody's terminal illness. Now, only the identity of her mysterious accomplice remained. I hurried back to the house. In our master bedroom, the large theatrical splash of blood was still a garish red stain on the pristine white duvet. I took several photos and a video for evidence, then carefully collected a sample of the substance into a sealable bag. I'd drop it off at a different hospital's lab later, asking a friend who worked there to analyze its composition. With that done, I drew a long hot bath and finally retreated to the guest room, leaving the bloody mess in the master bedroom untouched. It would serve as a perfect, visceral confrontation for Melody when the time came. It was very late, and Ethan hadn't returned. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from a social media app. Melody had posted. It's his wedding night, but he abandoned his bride to be with me. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, whose husband is he really? The accompanying photo was of two hands, fingers intimately intertwined. On those fingers were the wedding rings I had painstakingly chosen for Ethan and myself. Rage, potent and immediate, flooded through me. I typed out a scathing comment. Yours, obviously. You're about to die, aren't you? So, can you even consummate the marriage for me? My comment unleashed a torrent of replies. The comment section exploded. Damn, Ethan Collins is playing a dangerous game. 2 brides on the same day, and now he's planning a menage a trois for the wedding night. I never would have guessed. Ethan always seemed so proper. Turns out he's a massive scumbag. How could he do this to you, Olivia? Don't listen to that crap about fulfilling a dying wish. This is blatant bigamy. Olivia, you have to report him. A moment later my phone rang. It was Ethan, his voice crackling with fury. I answered with deliberate calm. Well, hello there, my dearest Ethan. Did you suddenly remember you married me to? Olivia, can you stop being so damn malicious? He seethed. Melody saw your comment, and she's been crying her eyes out. Delete it now. Delete what? It was your precious Melody who asked whose husband you were. What's the matter? Did your little charade suddenly become real? Ethan was practically hyperventilating into the phone. You Olivia. When did you become so cruel? I told you, all of this is for Melody's final wishes. She's a dying woman. Why are you picking on her? I mused. What if I told you her next dying wish will be to borrow a few million from you? Would you believe me then? There was a moment of silence from Ethan's end, then a short, derisive laugh. What nonsense are you talking now? Do you think you're some kind of psychic? She's dying. Why would she need to borrow money from me? He paused. If you're really that bored, why don't you make some wonton soup and bring it over for Melody? She's hungry. Just before he hung up, I heard Melody's voice in the background, feigning surprise. Husband, are you on the phone with Olivia? Did she tell you I was going to ask you for money? I hung up, a cold smile on my face. You cunning little viper, I thought. Let's see how long you can keep your tail hidden. I knew Ethan too well. He was stubborn, arrogant, and utterly convinced of his own judgment. You could explain something to him 100 times, and he wouldn't believe it until he hit a brick wall himself. If I told him right now that Melody was a con artist playing him for a fool, he wouldn't believe a word. He'd accuse me of being jealous, of throwing a childish tantrum. So I decided to let Melody expose herself. I wanted him to uncover the truth piece by agonizing piece. The eventual satisfaction of watching him confront his own stupidity would be my reward. Lying in bed, I idly scrolled through an online novel. Ironically, the plot involved a husband asking his wife, late at night, to cook wonton soup for his mistress. The wife in the story meekly complied, even braving a storm to deliver it. I snorted in disgust and closed the app. Make wonton soup for that creature? She could starve for all I cared. The next day was supposed to be the day Ethan and I officially registered our marriage. I no longer saw the point, but a tiny vindictive part of me wanted to see this whole farce through to its bitter end, just to witness Ethan's eventual humiliation at Melody's hands. That would be my ultimate catharsis. The following morning, shortly after I finished breakfast, Ethan called. His tone was impatient. What is it? I answered, my own voice flat. Olivia, what are you playing at? We're supposed to register our marriage today. What do you mean? What is it? Get downstairs now. I'm waiting in the car. Perhaps my cold tone had annoyed him, because his voice was now laced with anger. Oh, okay, I replied, my voice still devoid of emotion. Fine. If there was still a scene involving the marriage registration, I would reluctantly play my part. Downstairs, Ethan's Mercedes was parked by the curb. Unsurprisingly, Melody was in the passenger seat. As I approached, she shot me an apologetic look, then turned to Ethan with a pitiful expression. My, Ethan dear, the passenger seat is Olivia's special spot. Perhaps I should sit in the back. Her insincerity was nauseating. I smirked at her. Go ahead and call him husband if you want. Don't be shy. I certainly don't care to. Let him get his kicks with you. Ethan shot me a cold, warning glare. Just get in the car and stop talking nonsense. You're not happy unless you're upsetting Melody, are you? You malicious woman. I gave him a saccharine smile and climbed into the back seat. You utter fool, I thought. You'll get your just desserts when you realize how badly Melody has duped you. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, the clerk at the counter looked up at the three of us, me, Ethan, and Melody, and frowned. Identification, please. Why are there three of you? Who exactly is marrying whom? Ethan looked momentarily embarrassed. He handed over his ID. Well, comrade, it's me, Anne. Ah, hello, comrade. Melody interrupted, stepping forward with a bright, albeit strained, smile. It's like this. I'm a terminally ill patient with lung cancer. Mr. Collins and I are having a pretend marriage. I just want to experience the process of getting the certificate. If you could just go through the normal procedure for me but don't actually issue the certificate, then you can help Mr. Collins and Miss Olivia here complete their actual marriage registration. That would be wonderful. Melody's convoluted explanation left the clerk utterly bewildered. What in the world? Miss, you've completely confused me. Marriage is a serious matter. This isn't a theater, and I'm not here to participate in your play acting. Are you getting married or not? If not, please step aside for the next couple. I apologize, it's our mistake. Ethan interjected quickly, clearly flustered. Yes, we are. Melody, give her your ID. We'll do yours first. Then we can go to the next window and get it annulled. Promise you'll experience the complete process. He then shot me a look. Olivia, just cooperate, will you? Just a formality. Let me marry Melody and then divorce her. And then I'll marry you. It'll only take a few minutes. I stared at him, speechless. So let me get this straight. I stand here, do nothing, and in the blink of an eye, I become your second wife, the one you marry after your first quickie divorce. My voice was dripping with sarcasm. Even the clerk was now glaring at Ethan and Melody with open disgust. I've never seen anything like it, the clerk exclaimed. You're treating marriage like a child's game. How can you be so irresponsible to each other, and to the sanctity of marriage? People in the queue behind us began to murmur, then to openly criticize Ethan and Melody. Hey, you shameless scumbag at the front. You just want to have your cake and eat it too, don't you? And to the beautiful lady with him, don't let this jerk fool you. Find someone else to marry. Exactly. He's got a legitimate partner and still wants a mistress on the side. And he tries to make it sound so noble. Disgusting. The barrage of criticism from the angry crowd made Ethan and Melody flush crimson, then pale. Under the immense pressure, Melody backed away from the window. I'm sorry, Ethan dear, she mumbled, tears welling in her eyes. My request was too unreasonable. You and Olivia should go ahead. I'll just watch. Ethan looked at Melody with profound pity as she shuffled away, then turned his hardened gaze back to me. Well, what are you waiting for? Get your ID out. Weren't you desperate to marry me just yesterday? Why the sudden lack of enthusiasm? Ah, perfect timing. I made it. A familiar, confident voice cut through the tension. Julian Vance, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, materialized beside us, effortlessly pushing Ethan away from the counter. Without a word, he presented his own ID and a set of crisp, new photographs to the stunned clerk. While I was still fumbling in my bag for my ID and photos, completely dazed by his sudden appearance, Julian deftly plucked my ID from my fingers and handed it in as well. Before I could fully process what was happening, two decisive thumps echoed from the counter as the official steel stamps came down on two bright red marriage certificates. Julian, beaming, retrieved the two booklets from the clerk and handed one to me. There. We're married, he announced triumphantly, his eyes sparkling. Now you really are my wife. The joyous, almost boyish excitement on Julian's face left me, Ethan, and even Melody, who was watching from a distance, utterly dumbstruck. Ethan stared at Julian, then at the red certificate in Julian's hand, his own hands trembling with rage. Vance, you're insane. How could you do this? Julian feigned innocence. You marry your wife, I marry mine. You can't very well marry two at once, can you? Oh, did I jump your cue? My apologies, entirely my fault. His roguish grin and flippant tone only served to make Ethan's face turn an even more alarming shade of green. After the previous day's debacle, I had done some research on Julian Vance. I discovered he was the heir apparent to the Vance family, a colossal business, empire renowned throughout the city's elite circles, and the CEO of Vance Corporation. No wonder his name and face had seemed familiar. I'd probably seen news, reports or interviews with him online. To be honest, at the wedding, I had chosen him impulsively because he was young, handsome, and seemed like the perfect foil to publicly humiliate Ethan. I never imagined he was the Julian Vance, scion of such a powerful family. No wonder he'd said I had an eye for quality. But upon discovering his true identity, my first thought had been that anything between us was impossible. His family background was stratospheric compared to my modest upbringing. I was a small fish in a vast ocean. Yet, to my utter astonishment, he had apparently taken yesterday's chaotic charade seriously enough to track me down and legally marry me. Even now, staring at the red marriage certificate in my hand, I felt like I was in a dream, unable to believe any of it was real. Ethan, clearly intimidated by Julian and his influence, rounded on me instead, his voice a furious hiss. What are you standing there gaping for? Go to the next window and divorce him immediately. My patience is wearing thin. Before I could utter a word, Julian chuckled, tucking my arm securely into his. He shot Ethan a look brimming with provocation. And who told you my brand new wife wants a divorce? Are you delusional? He then turned to me, his gaze intense and unwavering. Wife, our certificate is processed. It's time to go home. He started to lead me away, as if they were the only two people in the room. I stopped, pulling back slightly, my expression serious. Mr. Vance, I began. Julian, if you stepped in yesterday because you couldn't bear to see me humiliated by a scumbag, and you were trying to help, I am incredibly grateful. But, are you seriously planning to marry me? To make me your wife? Why, we're practically strangers. There aren't that many whys, Olivia, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. Yesterday, out of hundreds of guests, you chose me. That suggests a certain fated connection, don't you think? I happen to be in need of a wife and I chose you too. One might even call it mutual affection, wouldn't you say? His words almost made me laugh out loud. Our connection was at best a desperate impromptu pairing. Mutual affection? Hardly. Still, marrying a man like Julian Vance. I didn't seem to have much to lose. At the very least, it was infinitely better than marrying a scumbag like Ethan. I raised an eyebrow, a flicker of my old spirit returning. All right then. How about this, we make a 1-year agreement. If after a year it turns out we're genuinely compatible, we continue. If not, we go our separate ways. What do you say? Of course, he agreed easily, a confident smile spreading across his face. But I have a strong feeling, Olivia, that we're going to be very compatible indeed. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, Julian took me directly to the house I had shared with Ethan. I quickly gathered a few essential belongings, and then we drove to the sprawling Vance family estate. Just like that, I, Olivia Hayes, had inexplicably become a daughter-in-law of the renowned Vance family. To my surprise, Julian's parents were warm and welcoming, treating me with kindness and genuine affection. The next few days were a blur of adjusting to life in a wealthy household, learning the subtle nuances of navigating the city's high society. I was so preoccupied that I almost forgot about Ethan and Melody. Then one evening, several days later, as I was leaving a high-end shopping mall, I ran into Ethan. He was a shadow of his former self. His usual polished appearance was gone, replaced by stubble on his cheeks and a weary, disheveled look. He approached me, his eyes filled with a desperate, haunted expression. Olivia, I'm so sorry. He mumbled, his voice hoarse. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong now. I instantly understood. A cold, detached feeling settled over me. What is it, Ethan? I asked, my voice flat. Did you finally realize Melody conned you? Her illness was fake, she borrowed money from you and then she vanished, right? Ethan stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief, then a flicker of agitation. How did you know? Without a word, I pulled out my phone and forwarded him the 2 video recordings I'd made at the hospital, along with the lab report confirming Melody's blood was nothing more than pigmented dye. As Ethan watched the videos and read the report, his face contorted with rage. His hands clenched into tight fists, and he threw his head back, letting out a primal roar of fury at the sky. Melody Lynn, you deceitful bitch. I hope you rot in hell. After his outburst, he turned back to me, his eyes red-rimmed and accusing. Why, Olivia? Why didn't you tell me? You knew she was a liar. Ethan, be honest with yourself, I said, my voice calm but firm. At that time, you were completely besotted with Melody. If I had told you then, would you have believed a single word I said? He fell silent, his shoulders slumping. He seemed to be talking to himself as much as to me. She's a master manipulator. A con artist. Her boyfriend abroad was in debt, so she came back here looking for a gullible fool me, to exploit my sympathy and borrow money. His voice cracked. The night we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, she got me drunk. She convinced me to lend her all my savings, over $5 million. The next morning she was gone, vanished without a trace. Olivia. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. I'm broke now. Pauper. Will you still love me? I looked at him, feeling nothing but a distant pity. No, Ethan. I don't love you anymore. And it has nothing to do with whether you have money or not. I lost all hope for us on our wedding day when I saw in your eyes that I no longer existed for you. I took a steadying breath. And you don't need to apologize to me. Everything that happened you brought upon yourself. It has nothing to do with me. I turned to walk away, to leave him and his self-inflicted misery behind. But he lunged and suddenly something cold and sharp pressed against my skin. A dagger. Hold it, he snarled, his eyes wild. Don't you dare try to make excuses. You only dumped me because you saw an opportunity with the wealthy Vance family, didn't you? You're the only one who can help me get back on my feet now. I'm not greedy. Transfer $5 million into my account and I'll let you go. Immediately. The icy touch of the blade against my throat sent a shiver of pure terror down my spine. Goosebumps erupted on my skin. Ethan, are you insane? I gasped, trying to keep my voice steady. This is robbery. Armed robbery. You'll go to jail for this. If you really need money, I can talk to Julian when I get home. I don't have $5 million on me. I don't believe you, he hissed, his grip tightening. You're Mrs. Julian Vance. How can you not have $5 million? Transfer the money now. To this account. He fumbled with his phone, his hands trembling, and showed me an account number on the screen. Helplessly, I opened my banking app, showing him my balance. A paltry sum, just a few hundred. Money I'd earned from some freelance work I'd done in the past few days. His face fell with disappointment, but his desperation made him reckless. He still pressed the knife against me, demanding I make the transfer. As I fumbled with my phone, my fingers shaking, there was a sudden sickening thud. Ethan's body flew sideways, collapsing in a heap. I looked up, gasping for breath, to see Julian standing protectively in front of me. He must have just returned from parking the car in the underground garage. His face was a mask of cold fury, but his eyes, when they met mine, were filled with concern. He pulled me into his arms. Olivia, my love, are you all right? I'm fine, I stammered, then cried out. Julian, behind you. Ethan, incredibly, was scrambling to his feet, the dagger still clutched in his hand, lunging towards Julian with a desperate, wild cry. Julian's brow furrowed slightly. He sidestepped Ethan's clumsy attack and delivered a swift, powerful kick to Ethan's chest. This time, Ethan went down hard and didn't get up. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial, but I managed to call the police. They arrived quickly and took a struggling, raving Ethan into custody. Julian held me close, his arms a circle of warmth and safety. I'm so sorry, Olivia. So sorry, he murmured into my hair. I should never have let you out of my sight. You said you didn't have any money on you. He pulled back slightly, reaching into his jacket. That was my oversight. He produced a sleek black credit card. I had a supplementary card made for you today, but I forgot to give it to you. Here. He pressed it into my hand. Take it. And if any other penniless lowlife ever tries to demand money from you again, you give them whatever they want. Your life, Olivia, is what's most important to me. Looking into Julian's eyes, so full of genuine fear for me and fierce tenderness, a wave of warmth spread through my chest, so potent it brought tears to my eyes. Impulsively, I reached up and kissed him, a soft, heartfelt kiss. Thank you, husband, I whispered against his lips. It was the first time I had called him that, the first time I truly felt deep in my soul that I had married the right man. Julian's arms tightened around me, his head dipping to deepen the kiss. His lips moved to my ear, his breath hot and urgent. You know, he murmured, his voice husky. We've been so busy we haven't exactly had a proper wedding night yet. We absolutely have to make up for lost time tonight. Not long after, Ethan Collins was sentenced to 10 years in prison for armed robbery and assault. 1 year later, almost to the day, I gave birth to our beautiful twins, a boy and a girl. In the delivery room, Julian held my hand tightly, his handsome face streaked with tears of joy and emotion. Olivia, my love, you were so brave, so incredible, he whispered, his voice choked. And today marks 1 year since our contract marriage began. He looked deep into my eyes, his own shining with an undeniable love. I am absolutely unequivocally certain that I fell in love with you a long, long time ago. What about you, my wife? I smiled, my heart overflowing with a happiness so profound it felt as if it might burst. Me too, Julian, I whispered. Me too. And